Hello and welcome to another episode. I've got to say, Tharusha, we didn't get cancelled, which is
I know,
we didn't
made
get cancelled. Yeah, we made it. We made it to episode 2. Okay, for those of you that are joining us for the first time, my name is Dr. Lasker. I'm a consultant radiologist. This is two medics and one Mike, and we are basically just talking about medic things, medic Twitter, social media, interesting things like that. And I guess, this is episode 2, and it's quite nice that we managed to get to an episode 2. I mean, that's really cool. Tharusha, I know that I know we've asked this question to each other on a personal basis, but I guess now I'm going to say it publicly. How was it for you? How was it for you?
How was it for me? Oh, it was painful at first, and then it's weird. I think. We obviously have a blast, right? Kind of talking to each other on Zoom anyway, and it's kind of nice to know that some of the stuff that we're talking about, people kind of found interesting or amusing, or people actually listened to it. I was like, oh, we spoke for 45 minutes. Can you believe it? And people just like, did they stick it out? I don't know. They said they did.
Well, I don't know what. Well, the thing is that, that we said that, and then, we kind of talked about that F1 or F2 foundation doctor who called me a bitch. And straight after we publicised the podcast, he went and called me a bitch again on Twitter, which is really funny. Yeah. But the point is that was actually quite near the end, so that clearly shows that there were a few people that listened to it, and on top of that, it was more than one, which is more than what we expected, and it's amazing. So everyone out there that bothered listening to us rant about, clearly, and we're just morons, aren't we, really? We're just morons talking about things we're not really qualified to talk about, but people are willing to listen. So thanks for hanging around.
Yeah.
So, cool. I think, when we were trying to put the podcast out, I was like, oh, is Thaursha really going to go for it and stuff like that? And then you kind of went quiet on me. You were ghosted me a bit, and I was like, oh, what's going on, man? There's this guy.
I was worried, I've got all these opinions, and I just don't know if the world's ready for them.
Yeah,
it's just too much. It's too much. Well, I think before, oh, by the way, I haven't introduced myself. How rude.
Oh, sorry.
I should say who I am. So I'm Tharusha Gunawardena. I've got a long name. I am a cardiology registrar. I work in the east of England, and I have an interest in intervention and also talking a lot. And I really like Twitter. I think it's awesome, even though every day there's some kind of controversy. So I thought today when we talk, maybe we should talk about something really rather positive, and that was Bethan, the neurosurgeon's thread. I say neurosurgeon, but actually the point of the tweet was to say that she'd made the decision to relinquish, that makes it sound really dramatic, doesn't it? But to give up her national training number after 6 years of training in neurosurgery. And it met with this amazing response. What did you think about it?
I mean, for those of you that don't know, like a training number is like something that you get into, and then you kind of go through the training numbers and stuff and end up becoming a consultant. So, 6 years of going through training and then leaving is a very brave thing to do. I think we kid ourselves in a lot of ways that, we're medics, we can do so many things. But when you're a medic and only been a medic for this long, it's difficult to really think that, let alone leave. Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult thing to do. I really do rate her for, first of all, doing it, and then tweeting about it. People's feelings are really out there on Twitter. I find it amazing.
Well, I've got to say that, I think it's almost even an understatement to say that it's just, training numbers in neurosurgery are so difficult. In fact, I wasn't quite sure how to respond, because obviously she'd mentioned she'd been thinking about that, giving the number up for some time, and obviously it's the right thing for her to do. And she mentioned a few things about neurosurgery and her experiences of that training environment that we should talk about, just training in general. But and so I wasn't really sure how to because are we like Twitter friends? Like we're mutuals, and we've I consider a lot of these people. I mean, should I be considering them friends? I don't know. Is it mutual? Do they feel the same way, or is it just me? Maybe it's just me.
I'm glad you brought this up, because I've noticed that Twitter keeps pushing certain people to my home feed, and it's like, are you trying to make me friends with these people? Are these people that I would have similar interests to? Like, who are these people that suddenly end up on my feed? And I felt very similar to you. There's a couple of people that when they do talk about things, I do suddenly feel like, oh, you know what, like I should say something, I should tweet something, I should support what you say, or feel like I should say something that I relate to you, I'm validating your experience of things.
Yeah, but I mean, this is why Twitter's, I think, for me, like I've like gotten into it so much because I'm desperate for these people to be my friends. I'm like, oh, please be my friends. So I know I'm being around the bush, but I consider Bethan a friend. I mean, she doesn't have to reciprocate, it's fine. But, you know, from my perspective, I consider her a friend. And I was like, oh, you know, how do I frame like this decision that she's made? Because obviously I knew that it's so difficult to get a training number in neurosurgery. And I was like, you know, and so in some ways I'm like, neurosurgery, what the hell's wrong with you? You've got to get this amazing person, a woman who's going to be a neurosurgeon, you know, like they're like unicorns. Like, you know, you should have been like cherishing her and making it impossible for her to leave. Like as soon as she kind of just, I don't know, looked unhappy, you'd be like, gosh, like why? And you know, have you not made more of an effort to keep this person in your training program? And some of the things that I kind of wanted to talk about was the attitudes that she faced when she told them that she was leaving, which was along the lines of, oh, neurosurgery isn't for everyone. Like that wasn't particularly helpful. I mean, and then it kind of, I saw some of the kind of conversations that were spurred on from that, which was about training. And there was another thread that was, how do we think training is? Is it any good? What do you think?
I think clearly training is good enough because most of us, if not all of us, end up being semi-competent at the job, right? Regardless of what people think of each other. But what is interesting to me is that, you know, I always find this interesting. Like I found this in radiology a lot, where people had such a high opinion of themselves that they felt as though you had to be particularly special to be doing what they're doing. And I've said this before in my last podcast, that you do something long enough, you're going to get pretty good at it. It doesn't matter like when you get good at it. You should technically get good at something having done it for long enough, right? So this really does, her thing did really strike a chord with me, because I don't know about you, Tharusha, but there were a few times when I thought like quitting, a few times. And I think one of the times is when my educational supervisor literally told me, Imran, you know what? You're not very good.
No way.
And I was thinking,
radiology?
Yeah, radiology. And I'm like, you know, I said to listen, yeah, I'm not saying I'm going to be the next Eminem. Like, if I said I was going to be the next Eminem, right? If I said, look...
Well, the morbidity and mortality meeting.
No, I mean the rapper. Like, if I walked in and said, look, everyone, I need everyone to listen to me right now. I'm gonna be a hit rapper, singer, you know, all-time greatest rap star. I do think those things are going to happen still. But...
Clinical correlation advice. Like, you have that sticker, like, clinical correlation advice. Like, instead of...
But hear me out, like, you know... Like someone like Eminem is unique for multiple reasons, yeah. But if you're telling me that I can't do radiology, like what on earth are you talking about? That's a ridiculous thing to say, that someone can't do radiology, look at a few scans and write a few reports. And I'm not saying neurosurgery is easy. I mean, it's hard enough getting into it, but if there are any issues with regards to training and all that kind of stuff, once you're in, there shouldn't be any issues. Just deal with whatever they are and move on. There's no need to be mean, horrible. You know, like if there's things to fix it. And this is what I feel like. If someone says to you that, oh, you know, I'm not feeling it anymore, find out what the reason is. Like, is it because the environment that's not good enough? If it's a case of like, look, I've got a personal thing going on. You know, it's got nothing to do with the work, everyone's been lovely, then fair enough, it's not for you. But if it's as a result of everyone around you being a little bit mean and a bit horrible and condescending, then there's a real problem there, because the actual neurosurgery is practice, isn't it? Like, I don't know, am I pushing everything down? Is neurosurgery really that easy, or not that easy? I don't know.
I mean, I imagine it's probably pretty hard, isn't it? But
yeah. I mean,
literally, there's a phrase, isn't it? It's not exactly brain surgery, but you know that's because brain surgery is hard, right?
No, I agree with you, but like, the thing is, like when you're trying to get a neurosurgery number, right? Does anyone look at what you're actually doing with your hands and like how good you are? Or when you go get a neurosurgery job, does anyone actually say, "Listen, I need to see you do neurosurgery and see whether you're good enough to take this job"? It's the same with radiology. Like you do these interviews where no one actually sees whether you've got a good perception with your eyes. Can you even see? I mean,
they should have eye tests. Right.
But don't you think, like, surely that's an important part of radiology, but it's not part of what we're testing. The same as neurosurgery. Like, no one's testing you for that particular skill to get in. So surely that means that you know, they expect you to have a certain IQ or certain dedication with regards to publication stuff, but that has very little to do with the job. I mean, can you imagine if you had Usain Bolt running the race? Look, before you run that race,
I need to know that you love Usain.
Yeah. I do, yeah, I see from my YouTube videos. But like, no one's saying to him, "Listen, I need to talk to you about the theory behind run. I need to talk to you about this. What kind of plimsolls do you have? What kind of t-shirt? Like, what the fabric is that t-shirt made out of?" Like, it's like, no. Can you run? just run. And we're going to work on your running because that's what's going to make you win the race. And that's the same thing as neurosurgery, I think. And it's a real shame. I mean, it's going to be a loss, isn't it? Like we said the other day, we're wanting for these kind of people. And when you lose them, it's like, well, all that work, all that effort.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And then, people were talking about how training has changed, right? And is it really training or is it service provision? And then, and obviously the kind of drive because of, I guess, the perception that perhaps trainees are going to be more accident prone or something, means that more kind of services consultant led. And then there's the other people talking about disintegration of the firm. How important do you think that is?
Well, you know what? That's the thing. Like, I never really. I mean, clearly that's why I do what I do, right? Radiology, because I don't like going on the wards. I don't like. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the firms are really like, you kind of go into a firm, you stick around for 2 or 3 months, and you move on again. And that's difficult, isn't it? I mean, how can you really get good at anything or learn anything in particular? You feel like a flash in the pan and you're gone. Whereas I felt radiology really good because you're kind of in the same place for almost 5 years. Yeah. And unfortunately for me, it didn't go so well for those 5 years. But if you if you get along and everyone's nice to you, then it's a great experience, and you get to really know people and stuff like that. And so that degradation of firm must mean that you can be. It's like, okay, silly example. I'm probably gonna be when you go through Tinder and all that kind of stuff. Tinder. Yeah.
I'm old, mate. I missed that. We missed that.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, when you're on these sort of dating websites, you can easily flip right and left. Like, you don't get to know a person, do you? Right?
No,
it's easy to just flick them right or flick them left. That's it. Doesn't really matter. And I think that if you're in the same place for a while and people get to know you, it's harder to really just throw you out the window per se. Like, I'm not interested. But when you're in a firm for only 3 or 4 months, it's very easy to be like, yeah, they're rubbish. Move on. They're not a very good doctor. I don't like it, and then just tank you. So there's kind of I think it's mostly negative. But I mean, what do you think? You did more of these than I did, really.
Oh well, yeah. I guess there are some firms that you probably just tolerate it, don't you? And just kind of, if they're kind of. I think it depends on characters, doesn't it? And I think in the example of neurosurgery, or the experience that people have in training, I think I think it's the interest that people take in you. And I think people have preconceived ideas of how their kind of junior colleagues should sometimes be, and often subconsciously that's an image of themselves. And so if people are slightly outside of that image, then if anyone says that they're in distress, it's almost like confirmation that, oh, you weren't supposed to be in this space anyway. So off you go. And I think sometimes the use of the word like professionalism and, just kind of the archetypes and all this kind of stuff is based on people's self-images. And unfortunately, if you're outside of that, just makes it even more harder. And I think there's, people have like an element of imposter syndrome or whatever when they're in certain spaces. And then if you're finding it difficult, and then people are less inclined to help, and you just kind of confirm that in your own head. And so I think you've got that additional barrier compared to everything else. And so, I mean, when I started as a junior doctor, a lot of the F1s who were with me were from Cambridge, and I remember feeling completely intimidated by them, and not for anything that they did. They were all really nice and stuff, but I was just like, oh, I'm going to be really stupid compared to these guys. And I remember one of the nights out where the first week or something where people were supposed to be getting I was like, oh, how am I going to speak to, I remember I got so drunk because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to talk to these. They're going to find out straight away that I'm an idiot. So for some reason in my head I was like, oh, if I drink a lot then I'll feel as if that was going to make it more, that's going to make me somehow appear I don't know, get on with them better, which I just ended up getting really drunk and then disappearing, I think, at 9 o'clock and looking for a chicken place and stuff. So I mean, that didn't really help, but so I think I like the kind of concept of the firms because people then have to stick with you, and you're not just there and then you're on call and they don't see you for 2 weeks and whatever. I think it kind of fosters more of a relationship, and therefore people are more likely to take interest in you. But ultimately it's about people taking an interest in you, and you can do that if you're just willing to take an interest in them, knowing full well that they'll disappear in 4 months. But if you see every junior doctor that you have with you as a potential future colleague, then that kind of moves it out of the way. But then I had that issue where sometimes we on cardiology, there was this SHO that I kept hearing about. Like, I'd started to do research. I wasn't on the ward that much more, but then during COVID, I was back. But anyway, like, I'd heard loads about her, like, oh, she wants to do cardiology, and I was like, oh, cool, you know, like, SHO wants to do cardiology. And then other people saying, oh, she's had a really bad time actually, and she's not, you know, she's probably like thinking of like quitting medicine altogether. And I was like, oh my god, that's horrendous. And like, and then finally there was like one day where I was on the ward, and I was like, oh, I've heard so much about you, and then I was just too much. I was just too much. And so I was like, oh, you know, you should like come to the lab, and you know, if there's anything you want, you know, oh god, should we do like a CBD after this conversation? Like, I was just too much. And then I said to her like, I'm married and really happy and stuff. And literally I said like, I'm like, so this is just me because, you know, and I was doing all that, you know, the kind of stuttery. And then I was literally, I just think it's awesome that people want to do cardiology, and I just want other people to enjoy it as much as I do. And she never got back to me. So no, but she still wants to do cardiology, which is awesome, despite me being like, oh, cardiology.
Well, you know, I think radiologists can be like. I mean, I remember. I was very. I regret. I think you spoke about this on one of your tweets recently, actually, and I do feel bad. I do feel bad about it looking back on it. I think I was a little bit mean when I first started as a radiology registrar. And I think someone walked in one day, and I was a bit like, look, what do you want? I was a bit like, literally, what do you want? And she looked at me, and she was like, hey, I haven't come in to ask for a scan. And I was like, okay, well, you know, what is it that you want? And you know, because I'm thinking, look, you're wasting my time now. And it's like, I was thinking about applying to radiology.
Oh no.
Oh, and mate, you know, after that, I literally did everything for her. Everything.
Oh,
I mean,
good.
as much as I could, I did. And I think I lost contact with her for a while. And I did worry. I'm not worried, but I did keep thinking about, you know, when you're stuck in that blank space, and you know, you're sort of thinking to yourself like, what are you thinking, or you know, like, where are you? You know, you're kind of bored, and you're thinking, what happened to that girl? Like, I helped her once, and I haven't thought about her for a while. And then I've managed to get in contact with her again, and we had dinner, and she was happy, and now she's a consultant now, and she's very, very happy. And I was like,
oh, wow.
It feels nice that I feel like I had something to do with it. Like, I didn't feel like a complete hoax in trying to push her into you know, doing radiology. It was good.
Sweet,
and I think I've tried. Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. And I think I've tried to do that again and again as much as possible. And I think a lot of our careers are based on who have taken interest in us.
Oh my god, yeah, so true. Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, I remember when I was an F1, I mean, one of the reasons that I wanted to do cardiology, but was also because like during I think it was my first or second week, and I was on call, and I was like, I don't know anything. And I remember I had this patient who literally, they had like maybe 2 things wrong with them, but that was too much. There's 2 things too much. Like, I needed there to be nothing wrong with this person. I just needed easy things just to get my feet under the table, and this was not easy. And it turned out the patient was like septic, and I think they'd gone into AF, and I was like, oh, what is AF? I don't even know. Just all these things. There's too many things, man. Too many things. And I remember I called the med reg, and I remember like the feeling of relief as the med reg came. He happened to be a cardiology reg, but like, that feeling of relief when he kind of like walked up to me, like, oh god, thank god the med reg is here. Like, I even knew at that formative state, like, the med reg was just like, and I was just like, I want to be that guy. I want to walk onto the ward, or I want to walk into an area, and I want people to be like, you know, Tharusha's here, he'll sort it out, you know, like, he'll know what to do. And it made a massive impact on me, and I swear to God, I mean, Vas, I know he's not going to be listening because he's well busy, but like, he was my first reg. I'll never forget. And he just, after that, yeah, you're right, like, it's all about impressions. And so I think we kind of like, because we get kind of hung up in our, you know, as you get older, right, you just get hung up in the everyday nonsense, and you sometimes forget that, and you just, and so, I mean, like, you just kind of look at the medical students, and they look like children, and you're like, oh, but like, there's so much that that you have an impression that you can leave.
I think, do you think you might be the lucky one in this situation? Because I was thinking, like, it's interesting because you called a medical reg who happened to be a cardiologist, and I remember, like, you know, I think there was a tweet that went out recently talking about, oh, when was the last time, talk about a time when, like, you got told off unnecessarily, right? And I literally, my first memory, actually there's a few of these, but one of the memories I had was when I called the med reg, because I was an F1. I think it was my first or second on call, and I asked for some help. And, you know, this guy absolutely you know, and I think back then I was a bit fearless. It's like, you know what, I need help. I'm going to just go and ask for help from this guy. And I called him up, and then he absolutely blasted me. As soon as I said, hi, I'm an F1, he just absolutely ruined me. I was just like sitting there, and the phone, it was literally, you know, when you've got the phone, I had to move the phone away because of how much, you know, he was, as I said, like, my head's not a blank space. You can't just shout into it, right? Like, you can't just shout into someone like that. But he was doing it, like, you know, and he was like, you ready? I don't know, he was just shouting at me. And then, I avoided him, and I think that really affected my future on calls. I was so scared to call the medical registrar, and especially if they're a cardiologist. And then, you know what?
He was a cardiology reg.
Yeah, he was a cardiology reg. And then one day I was like, you know, little Imran F1 walking onto the wards, and I kind of, it was almost comical. I walked into the doctor's office, and I saw him, and whoa, and I walked back out. And then this nurse said, why'd you just walk out like that? What's happened? I was like, oh yeah, that guy, he properly rinsed me the other day, and I just don't want to get involved. And she goes, you know, he's actually leaving cardiology. He hates it. He's got his own issues, man. That's why he had to go to you the other day. Yeah. I was like, oh, right, you know. And I hope he's got some peace. You know, like, I heard he did leave, and I hope he did get some peace from that. And clearly he had his own issues to have going. But maybe if he was a nicer cardiologist, I might have done what you're doing, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, I guess when people treat you that horribly, it's pretty hard to shake it off, isn't it? But I think the thing is that, well, I mean, you can see why he left cardiology, because he obviously wasn't lovely enough to remain within the specialty of. Of
course, yeah, you're all very lovely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, of course.
But anyway, I mean, let's be honest though. Like cardiology, there's a certain kind of toxicity that kind of is associated with it. I guess, or we've got like reputation, right? Did you see that diagram of like medical students' perception of different specialties?
Oh, brilliant. And, yeah, I loved it, yeah.
I like how like cardiologists, one of them was good looking, which I thought was like...
Oh, really? Why is that? Yeah. I mean, you're not... I mean... No, I'm not saying about you, but like what I was thinking, as soon as you said they're good looking, you always associate it to which film character are they thinking about when they say that? Or is it generally...
No, think real life. No, this is just life, isn't it? This is just them obviously making a dispassionate observation that cardiologists just tend to be good. But this is just, you know, this is evidence.
No, actually, you know what? Okay, come to think of it, there was a cardiologist that was quite... Yeah, you know, I agree with you. No, I agree. That's actually very, very true. There was...
Oh, God. Shall we move it on before it gets weird?
Yeah, let's see. I mean, look, I'm ready. I'm ready. For it.
You know, my hope was that we're kind of going to seamlessly move from one topic to the other. But frankly, I need to shoehorn this in because I feel like we do need to talk about emergency. Do you know the emergency? Do you know the water cannon person who's talking about tear gas?
No, you need to tell me about this because I tried to look it up and I couldn't find it, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to talk to Tharusha about this. What happened? Tell me. Well, what happened with tear gas in med Twitter? I need to know. Go for it.
I mean, frankly, there's a person who basically said something along the lines. This is a UK-based doctor said that. The police should be allowed to have water guns and tear gas. Are we too soft? Was the question. It wasn't the same unpopular opinion person, but it might as well have been. It was a similar type of trash. And this person is notorious in the sense that they have many, many followers, and sometimes they come out with slightly questionable opinions. But what they tend to do, I don't think they generally tend to go for negative effect. I think they generally want to have something kind of pithy out there. But if they say something that's problematic, rather than kind of, I don't know, maybe deleting it or they kind of skip over it. And so what I've noticed is if they said something that is getting ratioed hardcore, then they just kind of tweet other stuff after that, just to be like, oh, let's bury it in that, you know. So then they don't have to face the kind of the shame of having someone say, oh, you deleted that, didn't you? You know, we know what you said about just kind of shooting hazardous materials into people's faces. But so then they just tweet them, that was hot. That was like 15 tweets ago. So, you know, and it's just, exactly. Well, yesterday.
You know what? Like, I think it's a similar concept of anything in medicine, right? Like, I remember there was this consultant who literally annihilated me because of the scan. It was absolutely... I think this person had a problem. They had some sort of problem. They were always like gun people. And she insisted on putting it officially that I'd made this terrible call on the scan and, think she's worried about me. It was actually... I didn't know the difference between scarring and consolidation. That's all it was. It wasn't that major. And I told my mate, like, mate, you know, she's gone and put like an official thing in my portfolio that I'm terrible. What am I going to do? And he goes, dilute the pollution.
So what did you do?
Oh my God, I went on an absolute rampage. I went and got so many adopts, you know, like these assessments of so many people. Just dilute it, yeah.
Yeah.
And to the point, I was like, listen, yeah, are you going to give me a good one or a bad one? They're like, yeah, I'll give you a decent one. I was like, fine, you can do it. I'm going to send you an email. You have to be a bit fearless and just go for it. You know, eyes open, just be very, very like clear about your aims. And call it what you want. I mean, I know people are going to be a bit like, oh, you know, I'm not sure that's entirely. You've got to dilute stuff like that. And I get where that person's coming from. Like, if you've got a tweet on that's going to go out ever more. Like, do you really want that to happen? Do you really want it to be out there forever, always? Like, really? You want to just literally, you know, hit it like, you know, just hit it. Like, put loads and loads out there, and then hopefully, you know, you look at that tweet and you think, oh, well, I forgot that you ever existed. I forgot you existed, isn't it? It doesn't even matter anymore, does it? It's done.
Nice.
It was a long time ago. So I mean, I agree. I think it's a good way to, you know, how the other day you said that you just wanted to hit the situation head on and apologise, right, for something that you tweeted.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I feel like this person. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
I feel like this person has got so many followers, though they're kind of a bit untouchable. I think they just kind of, you know, they just have there are plenty of people who like that tweet, and there are lots of people who are like, oh yeah, maybe you should use rubber bullets as well. I'm like, oh yeah, like what? And people are like, oh, like, and they were kind of like health professionals and stuff, like, oh yeah, use rubber bullets because tear gas doesn't maim people enough. Like, but it's just, I was like, I think I was blown away, because I was like, oh, I wonder. It made me think about perspectives. Like, naturally, I guess. Or is it natural? I kind of thought, well, what if I was like protesting something? Because that kind of, I guess that tweet was in response to the stuff, the protests about safety for women. And I was like, you know, and I was like, those are the people you would be tear gassing. I mean, that's the implication, isn't it? Or I don't know if I was kind of.
Well, maybe... I guess so, isn't it? I mean, they're doing a protest. I mean, do you think it could be a hoax? Do you think it's a hoax thing that he just put out there and it was like, you know...
Or just for attention?
Yeah, do you think? I mean, like the other man, Purple Vein Man, like he just seems to tweet things to get a bit of attention and then just move on quickly. Do you think that could be what it is?
I don't know.
I mean, the thing is, like, if you're talking about... I mean, tear gassing people, that's a big deal, isn't it? Like, talk about death by 1,000 cuts. I mean, that's a tough thing to... It's going to hurt, isn't it? It's just going to... Why would you want to actually promote hurting people? Like, that's not something you want to do, especially as a doctor, as a medical professional. Is that something you really want to put out there?
That does lead quite nicely onto the other thread there was about. There was a thread about remaining, being medics and how we should remain apolitical, and that. What do you think about that? I mean, like, I think that partly was in response to BLM. I think there was some stuff on that. I remember first seeing this guy tweeting stuff along those lines, like, oh, we are medics. And there was some like stay in your lane stuff, which I think was to do with guns as well. But it just was this apolitical thing, which I could tell you just even saying the word apolitical gives me a bit of... It's giving me chest pain. But I know that maybe I should say what I think. I'm not sure how you feel about it, but I kind of think that if... Well,
I mean, what do you think? Because I know it's all very interesting. I mean, you can try and stay underneath the umbrella, right? The umbrella of like everyone else's opinion, because you know we're all health professionals. We're all trying to. I think I mean, on some level, we're trying to promote a certain way of a certain kind of image of ourselves as being health professionals. But like, you know, we spoke about Purple Vein the other day, and you know, like he expresses certain opinions that we don't always agree with, and should he express them in the first place?
Well, I think that's different. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think there's a social responsibility. I mean, that's one thing. But the same, I think even just using the word apolitical is kind of, it is political in a way, because you're accepting things as they are. You're saying that I'm happy with the status quo, or at least you don't feel the motivation to change the status quo. And there's plenty wrong. There's plenty wrong with medicine. There's plenty wrong with society. There's plenty wrong with our attitudes. Even like, I know that there's plenty wrong with the attitudes I hold. You just have, but like, if you're just going to be like, oh, I'm just happy to tread water, you're essentially saying, you know, everyone else who doesn't have the luxury of just having an opinion or having a voice to be heard, like, people will listen to what we say, or you know, some people do listen to some of the stuff that we say, and so do we not have a responsibility to use that voice if there are people willing to listen?
But I mean, look, I guess the point. I mean, do you either tweet about things that are safe and sound because you know you don't want to get in trouble, or do you just try and I mean, look, you can either promote yourself as some sort of Superman, some sort of superstar, and just sort of stay the way that you are, right? But like, is that something you really want to do? Like, if you want to be true and honest with,
I feel like we've taken this. So your commitment to this is amazing. But basically, so Imran is throwing references in there to Taylor Swift, which is another relevant tweet, because there was someone who DM'd a person saying, "Look, you're getting off message, and you talk about Taylor Swift too much. You talk about, I don't like Taylor Swift. I prefer you to just stick to one message." That's what, and then I unfollowed them, and everyone's like, "Taylor Swift is amazing." And so what we've been trying to do whilst trying to have a conversation is also put Taylor Swift songs in there. So if you listen back, and if you're able to, what would be kind of cool, I'm never like part of the in group, and what would be really nice is if we tweet about this podcast and you reply literally just with a number of Taylor Swift song references in there, I will just DM, like, whoever was right will get DM.
Should we just invite them on the show or something? Like,
oh no, I was thinking I'd send them donuts, because that'd be on brand. I can send them some donuts.
Yeah. That's a good
Cardiologists and the donuts.
And maybe tag Taylor. That'd be nice to go.
Oh yeah, maybe she. Maybe not. But like, yeah. So if you, we'll still try and put some Taylor Swift references in there. But this is exhausting, Imran. I want to know your opinion on. Yeah. I mean, because there's that whole thing, isn't it? Like, doctors are getting struck off. There was that WhatsApp group where doctors got struck off because of, well, we don't actually know what they were talking about. It could have been horrendous, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you think about
WhatsApp? You know, we were talking about Twitter being a dangerous place, but WhatsApp is a dangerous place too, right? I don't know how you felt, but there's a few like groups I'm part of, like Haberdasher's group, Haberdash School, the school that we went to, and sometimes they'll tweet something, or like some of them are still single lads and stuff, and they'll take photos of themselves being out in the clubs and the bars and stuff. And I remember the other day,
not now because of COVID, they're all being very respectable, and they're all staying at home, and they've all learned how to do yoga and Joe Wicks.
Exactly, but what was happening was like my WhatsApp was auto downloading a lot of the photos.
Is that what it is? Oh, yeah.
No, it's seriously. And so my wife was like, "Oh, do you have the photo of the kids? Can I just have a quick look?" And she took my phone, and there was all these photos of these girls and like bars and clubs, and I was like, "Whoa! I really am on night shifts. I'm not living. I'm not doing those photos aren't my photos." And that's when I realized WhatsApp's a dangerous place, isn't it? So I started to prevent the downloads and things like that. But then they had the end-to-end encryption, so you kind of felt as though like it's a semi-safe space. And there's obviously certain things that you don't want to. I mean, there's certain things you don't want to write down, and we don't know what those. I mean, because what we're talking about is a set of doctors who've ended up in trouble because of a WhatsApp group and a few messages that go back years.
I mean, more than trouble though, isn't it? They got struck off for the content, but I think
they actually get struck off.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, right.
And I think in the article, I mean, it pains me to say this is a Daily Mail article. Oh my god! And so I was like, I don't want to give them my money, but I really want to click on the link because they got anyway. But and apparently they were like, it brings like patients into distribute. And I'm like, what? Do they have patient details in there, or like what is it? What did they do? God, tell us so that we don't do it. But I mean, not that we ever speak about patient details and stuff, but there have been times where I've tweeted about kind of bad experiences of patients. But generally, when I've tended to do it, like I've waited some time, or not included anything that I kind of thought was unidentifiable. But you do. I mean, some people tweet, like the horrible pictures, I don't know, this is a horrendous echo and whatever. And I remember I had a bit of a back and forth with someone about that, because I was like, well, there is a kind of educational element, and then they were like, well, yeah, but then there's also a bit of a kind of rubbernecking, kind of like you're looking at a car accident type fascination. Because I mean, there's a radiologist who he's got a massive following. We know him, by the way, but he posts like some really, really good, interesting scans and stuff. And I mean, I think otherwise I probably wouldn't search these things out myself. So it's kind of good. What do you think?
I think, like, with that said person who's got a very, very, I mean, he's doing a fantastic job of promoting radiology. I mean, I think he's done a fantastic job of making it interesting because, culturally almost like we're seen to be quite boring, and you pretty much are. But actually the work itself is, I mean, fair enough. But it's like the work itself is very interesting, and I think he's doing a very, very good job showing that. And But yeah, I see what because I'm on TikTok, and so if anyone wants to find my TikTok, go ahead. But I put a few videos of not me twerking. I don't do that yet. For enough money, I might. But I put a few videos up trying to show what COVID looked like, right? And then someone messaged commented and said, "Look, it's all very well you putting these kind of pictures up, but you're putting pictures up of someone suffering over a beat, and I don't think that's cool." And I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that at all because, at the end of the day, you do have someone that is going through COVID and with a PE. And yes, I did do it for educational purposes and stuff. But, I mean, someone is suffering at the end of the day. And is that something I really want to be tweeting about and stuff?
But I'm not sure because, but then if you think about it, everything we know, everything that we learn in medicine is because someone suffered or someone died, right? And then we learnt about it. That's how we learn about it. It's not from people living happily ever after. Most of the stuff we learn is because someone died.
Are we still doing the Taylor Swift thing? Because you just said happily ever after. Is that a song?
Oh my god, no! That was completely by accident. But let's be honest, a lot of my conversation and a lot of my life is to the beat of a Taylor Swift song. So,
okay, good. I mean, honestly, I was about to you can't tell me to stop and then to carry on. I was going to bring the document back out, but no, okay, fine.
What,
happily ever after.
Wait, you weren't reciting those song titles from memory, because that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love Taylor Swift. Wait, I felt like you had a Taylor Swift related story. Did you not, or did you not want to? Did you change your mind?
It's not. I don't know if that's interesting. I mean, I'd say anyway. Well, you know what? Maybe this will help my situation. So, my after the last podcast, my wife obviously listened to the podcast, and she said it was very good and all that. But her criticism was there was a few too many wife jokes.
Oh no!
and you know when your wife says that, you kind of think, oh god, maybe I pushed it too far. Did I say? And I felt a bit bad about it. And I'm not bad. I mean, I still think I'm going to joke about it. She's going to listen to this and know that I've talked about it. Like, whatever. Yeah. It's too late now. 2 kids.
She's not around the corner.
No, and she's got 2 kids in a ring. Like, where are you going to go? No, just joking. But back in the day, Tharusha, you know that I wasn't exactly the lady's man, right? And so I think when
you say it like as if I was. Yeah, I understand what it's like being a nerd. I'm also a nerd. Yep. There you go.
But I remember when I don't know if anyone will relate to this. Maybe it's just me being a bit weird, but I'd met a few people by now, and when I finally met my wife, I found oh, she seems kind of nice. I quite like her, and then we kept meeting and stuff, and it was really nice and stuff. And it's interesting, when you're from the Asian family that I was from, you're almost meant to be asexual until the point that you're ready to be married. And
certainly.
Yeah, and then they're like, oh, where is the person? Have you had anyone? And it's like, well, where did this come from? I was meant to be asexual until now, so. I met her, and then I remember I was dropping her home once, and my brother-in-law and my sister were with me, and I kind of must have been thinking out loud, which which is probably a good thing that I don't see patients anymore because I've been prone to doing that. And I said something like, "Oh, I really like her. I feel like having listened to a lot of love songs now, I feel like I know what they're talking about. And they were like, what?" And then I was like, yeah, and I kind of tried to joke it off, Taylor Swift, her love story song. You feel like, and oh my god, I got completely rinsed, man. Oh, they just really took me to town. And I had one of these pre-wedding events, and they played Taylor Swift out. They played that song. Oh my god, I was so embarrassed. Oh my god. Yeah. So that's my story. Enjoy that. Enjoy that, internet. Enjoy that. Okay, good. No, but I mean, look, we were talking about being apolitical, right? Apolitical, is that something we like? Oh yeah. Oof.
is a situation which came about essentially because a lot of junior doctors understandably feel unhappy with it. Like, you know, you're unhappy with the level of so better working conditions if you don't have to pay for parking, if like people have better social care. I don't know why I started parking first. Like,
But you know, but do you think? I mean, I'm asking you now. Like, do you think there's a certain level of pulling the ladder from under us, or just kind of trying to keep it exclusive? Like, because you know, recently there was this whole thing about, oh, you know, there's a situation where we may be able to have people who kind of do apprenticeships and then become doctors. And I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that's awesome, man. Because for some people, becoming a doctor is just too costly in terms of finances, in terms of time. And if you're telling me that someone could literally come in and do an apprenticeship, which is pretty much what you all do, but don't get paid for it, and then, you know, and I think most of us learn most of the job from doing the job. So what's the big deal here? But people are really upset by that. And I was really surprised that, you know, like, you're talking about people who won't have the opportunity to become doctors. You know, and if that's something they want to do, then why are we not letting them do that? Don't you think? Like, what do you think? Yeah.
I think one of the problems in medicine is unfortunately still we both went to otherwise so I'm sorry privileged to go there, but we can see from the
Yeah.
we had to worry so much about food on the table, and I just think surely widening inclusion can only be
is a good thing. Is a good thing. It is. Yeah, definitely. No, but I felt like some of it's a bit elitist. Like, you know, like for example, with that particular tweet about PA pay, it's like, well, you know, you're saying, oh, well, you're not good enough, or you're not, you know, you shouldn't be. You're basically saying you shouldn't be paid the same as me because I went through what I went through to get to this point. You're not the same as me, right? But it's a bit of an odd argument. I find that really sad that we could be like that. Like, I assume that person did it for conversational purposes, but it's like I just think that sometimes we're a little. I feel people are a little bit. We also want to open things up. We want to open things up, and every time there's an opportunity for someone to open up, like if someone became a PA, let's say someone became a PA, right, and they spent a decade on the wards, a decade doing, you know, ward rounds. Are you telling me they're not going to be as good as a reg, or they're not going to be as good as a consultant after a decade of being, you know, like we all know is built on experience, all of it. So we. Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like, there's going to be some progression in their job, and hopefully they're. But my point is, like, you know, I sometimes think that we should all get over ourselves a little bit, yeah, because. No. That's definitely me from my heart. I'm saying because look, if people haven't read this book, I highly recommend it. It's called The Unfair Advantage. I don't know who wrote it, or I can't remember who it was. Very, very interesting book because it talks about how. A lot of what we do is based on the unfair advantages that we have, and those unfair advantages may be because you're white, or because you're brown, or whatever it could be, but you've got unfair advantage over someone else doing what you do. So me, if I look at my life now, right, I look back and I think to myself, you and me, we both went to a very, very good school, right? If it wasn't for that school, it's very, very unlikely I'd be doing what I do right now. But that's my unfair advantage over other people. Right, and someone else like out there, like who comes from a millionaire background and all that kind of stuff, will feel that they come from a millionaire background, will have an unfair advantage over other people because they've got a millionaire background, right? And so not everyone has those advantages, right? And so when you've got someone who's a PA or someone who wants to do something remotely medically related or go as close to their dream as possible, if that's what their dream is, then why are we getting in their way saying they're not going to be good enough? They've got to go through med school, they've got to go through this, they've got to go through that. Like, let's get over ourselves a bit. Personally, I think let's just get over it, and we're trying to open it up a bit. Like have some different people coming in from different backgrounds. These are good things that happen, changing people's lives like that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, being a doctor is a privilege, don't you think? Like, it's an amazing privilege. And interestingly, I was talking to my mother-in-law the other day, and I can't remember why, but I think there was some question that popped up. So, look, I said to her mum, they're asking... yeah, you're in trouble. But anyway, so like I said to my mother-in-law, they're asking what would you be your dream job? And she goes, my dream job. I was like, yeah, what would be your dream job? She goes, doctor. I was like, what? What do you mean you want to be a doctor? What? And she was like, yeah, I mean, that would be my dream job. And I thought, man, of all the I mean, I never thought of that. Like, there's plenty of things that that happened for you, being from the background that you came from the family that you were from, that didn't let that happen. Like, there's things that just got in the way from that happen. That was your dream. I never realised that was your dream. And so you're talking about people that would want to be doctors who are willing to sit there on the wards, you know, catheters, blood tests, ECG, you know, running around, doing all that stuff. So on the promise that, you know, after a certain amount of time, there'll be the equivalent of a doctor. You got to rate someone to want to do that. You got to give them, you know, I never appreciated it for what it is or what it was until now when I look back and man, it's such a privilege, massive privilege, don't you think? And I think that pulling the ladder from under us is not fair, in my opinion, my humble opinion, you know. Yeah, a bit of a serious end. So yeah, I mean, an interesting week on. I mean, it's unbelievable. Twitter just keeps giving and giving and giving, doesn't it? It just keeps giving away. I think so. Yeah. So look, Taylor Swift songs. How many did we put in? Yeah. So that's going to be the competition. Yeah, that's true. Anyway, so anyone that did listen last week, I'm so grateful that decided to, you know, listen to us again this week. So grateful. It's been real good fun, and I hope we get to an episode 3. I certainly intend to. So let's keep this going. Let's go. Cool, man.